political fight or a problem with the Eastern Cape leaders. You are all looking at the surface. I have been underneath. I was there. I saw the initiation. I saw the cause. They tell you it's about culture and Igwe, Gibo, but I'm here to tell you that this kingdom is connected to a spiritual train running under the Indian Ocean. It is not a blessing, it is a recruitment. If you live in South Africa, you need to listen to me before April. People have been initiated into something they don't understand, and the price is paid in blood and accidents. I'm a victim of this man. I'm a victim of this throne. And if I don't speak now, more fuel will disappear into the dark water. This is what happened to me. I'm speaking today because my conscience can't take it anymore. I love South Africa. This is the land that feeds us. And I can't sit back and watch my own people who claim to be my brothers from Nigeria, destroying the peace of this country with lies and dark spiritual powers. You see these men in their expensive robes. You see them calling themselves King Igwe in East London. But I want to tell you, do not be fooled by the gold and the crowns. They are using our Nigerian culture as a mask to hide something very ugly. They are not here to build. They are here to harvest souls and power from South Africans. Let me tell you who I am so you understand why I know these things. I come from a very humble family back in Nigeria. My father was a man of God, a quiet man who taught us that a name is better than riches. I grew up in a house where we respected the elders and the true traditional kings of our land. I came to South Africa with a dream. I wanted to work hard, send money home, and live a quiet life. I'm a family man. I have children who look up to me. But when I arrived here, I was struggling. I was looking for a connection, a way to move up in life. That is when I met them. They saw my hunger and they used it. They told me, brother, we are starting a powerful kingdom here in Eastern Cape. We are bringing the glory of Nigeria to South Africa. If you join, you'll never be poor again. You'll be part of a royal bloodline. I thought I was joining a community. I thought I was finding a home away from home. I didn't know I was walking into a trap set by people who have sold their spirits to the water. They are faking the steps of our ancestors. They are pretending to be the kings of Ngibo, but in reality, they are agents sent by a dark underground code. My family back home doesn't even know where I am right now. They think I'm successful, but I'm living in fear. I had to run away because once you see what happens behind the closed doors of that palace, you can never unsee it. I am putting my life on the line to warn South Africans. These people are not your guests. They are not your brothers. They are here to initiate you into a system that belongs to the Indian Ocean, not to the heavens. I want you to understand how they get you. They don't come to you looking like monsters. They come to you looking like successive brothers. When I first arrived in Eastern Cape, I was struggling. I had no papers, no job, and very little hope. That is when I was approached by a man who looked like a high-ranking official. He was wearing expensive Nigerian lace, and he spoke with so much authority. He told me, my brother, why are you suffering in a foreign land when your king is here to protect you? He took me to a place. It wasn't in a dark valley. It was a beautiful house. There were many people there, some South Africans, some Nigerians. They were all bowing and calling this man His Majesty. They made me feel like I was finally part of something big. They gave me food. They gave me a little bit of money. And they told me that as an Igwe, this man had the power to open doors that were locked for years. But as the weeks went by, I started to notice things that I didn't know and things that didn't make sense. I know our traditions. I know how a real king carries himself. But this king His eyes were different. When he looked at you, it wasn't with the love of a father. It was like he was counting something. He started talking about spiritual investments. He told us that for the kingdom to grow in South Africa, we had to give more than just our loyalty. I remember one night, we were told to meet at a specific spot near the coast. They told us it was for a blessing of the land. But when we got there, the atmosphere changed. It wasn't a prayer meeting anymore. There were strange smells in the air. Incense that didn't smell like any church I know. They started talking about the cause. They said that to truly belong to the East London Kingdom, we had to be connected to the source of water. I saw men I respected, men who were supposed to be like businessmen, shaking and falling to the ground. I asked myself, is this really about Nigeria? Is this really about being a king? Because what I was seeing felt like it belonged to the deep ocean, not the traditions of my ancestors. I wanted to leave, but once you sit at that table and eat their food, they tell you that you're already marked. I was trapped before I even knew the name of the game. By the time I reached my third month with them, I realized this wasn't just a Nigerian club. They were not what I expected. I watched as they started inviting local people from East London and surrounding areas. They would find people who were desperate, people looking for jobs, people with sick family members, or young men who wanted power. They would tell them, the king is here to bless this land. He had the keys to the spiritual wealth of Africa. I saw South Africans bowing to these men. It hurt my heart because as a Nigerian, I knew something was wrong in our culture. A king does not appear in another man's backyard and start commanding people. You must respect the owners of the land. You must respect the Xhosa kings, and Zulu kings. But these people, they didn't care about the Eastern Cape house of traditional leaders. They would say behind closed doors, this land is empty spiritually. We are here to take over. We are the real authority now. One night, I saw a group of local South African youth being brought into a private room. They were told that if they wanted to be protected from the accidents and bad luck of the streets, they'd receive a special mark. They called it the seal of the kingdom. I saw them using oils that smelled like the sea. They told these boys that they were not part of a global network that moves faster than any car or plane. They started whispering about a train that does not use tracks. I didn't understand it then. I thought they were talking about business or transport. But I saw the change in those boys. Their eyes went cold. They stopped talking to their families. They only listened to the king. I realized then that they were being trapped into something. They were not just building a kingdom. They were building an army of shadows right here in Eastern Cape. I tried to warn one of South African brothers. I whispered to him, my friend, be careful. This is not the Nigerian I know. This is not the Nigeria I know. But he looked at me like I was the enemy. They'd already poisoned his mind. They told him that I was jealousy of the new power. That was the moment I realized that if I stayed, I would be forced to help them trap more innocent people. The king started looking at me with a suspicion. He knew I was seeing too much. He knew I was starting to count the number of people who entered that house but never seemed to come out the same way. I couldn't do it anymore. I saw the faces of those South African mothers crying because their sons were changing, becoming like zombies for this king. I saw the man being collected from the poor to buy spiritual protection. My soul was screaming. I decided I was done. I stopped picking up their calls. I stopped going to the secret meetings at the coast. I thought, I'm a free man. I can just walk away. They are just men in fence clothes. But I was wrong. These are not just men. One night the king himself called me. His voice wasn't smooth. fatherly voice I heard before. It was cold. It sounded like the wind at the beach. He said to me, "Brother, you have tasted the salt of the kingdom. You can't spit it out. If you turn your back on the crown of the East London waters, the crown will turn its back on you. And when the crown turns, it takes what it wants." I laughed at him. I said, "I serve a living God. You have no power over me." I blocked his number. I tried to move on with my life, but I was not straight. I blame myself there. I was supposed to go to Christianity wholeheartedly. But 3 days later, I got a call from a villager in Nigeria. My sister was screaming on the phone. She told me that our mother and father, who were perfectly healthy the day before, had both passed away in their sleep at exact same time. No sickness, no warning. The doctors in the village couldn't explain. They just stopped breathing together. I felt my blood going cold. I remembered the king's words. I remembered the incense and the strange water rituals. I knew right then that this wasn't a coincidence. They didn't use a knife or a gun. They used the cord. They went across the ocean, back to my roots. Then they struck my heart when it hurt the most. They killed my parents to show me that their kingdom has no borders. They wanted me to know that even if I'm in South Africa, they can reach into my home in Nigeria and take left foundation. I spent days crying, wishing I'd never stepped foot in that palace in East London. They didn't just want my loyalty, they wanted my soul. And since I wouldn't give it, they took the two people I loved the most in this world. That is when I realized that this Igwe isn't a king of people. He's a king of shadows. And he can do this to me. What do you think he plans to do to the people of South Africa who stands in his way? After my parents were taken, something in me snapped. I didn't want just run anymore. I wanted to know what these people really were. I started following them in secret. I stayed in the shadows of East London, watching the cars that went in and out of that palace at 3 a.m. I followed them to the coast one night. It was a place where the rocks are sharp and the waves are violent. I hid behind a large stone, holding my breath. I saw the king and his inner circle standing at the edge of the ocean. They were not wearing their royal robes anymore. They were dressed in strange, dark garments that seemed to shimmer like fish scales in the moonlight. They were not speaking Igbo. They were not speaking English. They were making sounds that sounding like the water itself, hissing and clicking. That is when I heard them mention the train. One of the men, a man I knew from Nigeria, who used to be a humble trader, was shaking. He pointed at the horizon and said, "The tracks are vibrating. The 2026 shipment is coming through the deep." I looked out at the ocean, expecting to see a boat, but there was nothing, no lights, no ships, just the black water. But then I felt it. The ground beneath my feet started to hum. It felt like a heavy engine was passing deep, deep underground, right beneath the sea. The king laughed. It was a sound that didn't belong to a human being. He said, "South Africa thinks they own this land. They think they alone can stop a king. They don't know that the tracks are already laid from the east to south. By April, the station will be full." I realized then that they were not talking about a physical train with wheels. They were talking about a spiritual portal, a code they use to move things across the world that no customs office or police office can never see. They are bringing passengers from the dark side of Nigeria into the heart of Eastern Cape. I saw them throw something into the water. It looked like a bag of old coins, but when it hit the waves, the water turned red, not like blood, but like a glowing fire. I knew then that my parents were not just killed. They were They were the price paid to keep that train moving. Every person they initiate in South Africa, every local boy they bless, is another brick in that underground track. I barely made it back to my car. My hands were shaking so hard, I couldn't turn the key. I realized that this Nigerian king isn't here to rule a community. He is here to build a station for something that comes from the bottom of the sea. And April is when the doors are scheduled to open for everyone. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth that they would kill me 1,000 times to hide. You keep hearing them whisper about the underground train. You think it is a myth. You think it is just a story. Listen to me. In the dark world of the Shadow Kings, the underground train is a spiritual frequency. It is a dark transport system that moves power, spirits, and stolen destinies across the Indian Ocean. When they installed that man as king in Eastern London, they were not just putting a crown on a head. They were issuing a station on South African soil. Why do you think they chose the Eastern Cape? Why the coast? Because the water is the conductor. The code they use, the anagrams, and the secret numbers they post, those are the coordinates. They are calling something from the deep waters of Nigeria and directing it straight into the heart of South Africa. This train doesn't carry passengers in seats. It carries initiates. Every young South African who bows to that king, every person who takes his blessings or his money becomes sleeper on that train. They are being linked spiritually to a power source that doesn't belong to this earth. They are faking being Nigerians. Yes, they have passports. Yes, they speak the language, but the spirit inside them are from water kingdoms. They are sent to colonize South Africa from the outside. And now, listen to warning. April is the arrival. The king and his circle have been preparing the treks through these rituals I saw at the beach. They told me that by April 2026, the great exchange would happen. They're expecting a massive surge of spiritual energy, a shipment from the deep ocean. But a train needs fuel, and the fuel for this arrival is blood and accidents. Have you noticed the strange accidents on our roads lately? Have you noticed the sudden deaths that make no sense? They are clearing the way. They are paying the toll of the train to dock in Eastern Cape. They are telling people to stay away from certain areas and certain people because those are the loading zones. If South Africans do not stand up now, if the traditional leaders do not physically and spiritually uproot this fake throne by end of April, the station will be locked. These people own spiritual atmosphere of Eastern Cape. You see more kings popping up in every province, all connected to the same underground code. I'm in Nigeria, and I'm telling you, this is not just about South Africans, it's about Africa. This is not us. This is an invasion of the soul. They killed my parents to silence me, but my voice is now louder than their train. Stay away from the Water King. Do not let them mark you. The train is coming, South Africa, but you still have time to pull up the tracks. I've told you enough to save your lives. Now I give you the final piece of the puzzle. When you see them posting strange letters and numbers online, that anagram code, do not try to read it like a normal book. That is the spiritual signal. It is a beacon for the train in the Indian Ocean. When they post it, they are telling the space where the next sacrifice or accident needs to happen. If you see these kings or there are people trying to pray for you or touch your head, run. They are not giving you a blessing. I'm in hiding now. I have no family to lose. My only mission is to make sure South Africa doesn't fall into the same trap I did. These people are pretending to be from Nigeria, but they save the water, not the people. To the South African traditional leaders, do not let them build their situations on your land. To the people on the streets, do not follow the money, because the money is stained with the salt of the deep. April is almost here. The train is almost vibrating under the Eastern Cape soil. Stay away from the water. Stay away from the cold. Protect South Africa. Thank you so much, my brother. Listeners, can you forgive me for pronunciations here and there? This is a translation of a confession received from a Nigerian brother. He's exposing and exposing this cult thing, this new kingdom recently opened in Eastern Cape. But for those of us who follow the word of God, this is not just a strange story. This is a spiritual war that was predicted thousands of years ago. Let's look at what the Bible says about what is happening in Eastern Cape right now. The spirit of the water, the marine kingdom. The brother mentioned a train under the ocean and rituals at the coast. The Bible warns about spirits that operate in the waters. In Job chapter 41, verse 1, it talks about Leviathan, the monster of the deep sea. These are marine spirits that specialize in pride in controlling nations. When these people install a king near ocean, they are trying to invite the spirit of the Leviathan to rule over South Africa soil. They are not serving God, they are serving the deep.